That was Professor Mahmoud Mamdani from Columbia University. Anjali, your response?
I think, there's, like I said, there was a real, people were very divided in Libya about the NATO intervention. Initially, there was a very clear sense that people didn't want foreign intervention. People wanted to do this on their own. But I think it reached a point where people felt they just weren't able to do this on their own.
Okay. So what people exactly? What about the Gaddafi tribe, the Darhuna, 600,000 people, the Megraha, the Warfala, 1 million people, blacks, many women? What about the people that aren't on this bandwagon? Does she know about any of them? I did a statistical breakdown. I can't prove that even half the people of Libya support the rebellion. I can't prove they don't, but I can tell you there's about 2 million of the 5 million native Libyans that clearly are in tribal affiliations with Gaddafi. What about those people? Let's go back.
And there was no going back. Already hundreds of people had been killed, the attacks were continuing, and there was a real sense of the imbalance of power, and they put out a call for external support. And there's much to be said about the machinations that took place in Europe, in the United States, countries that had long supported Gaddafi and that had armed Gaddafi that had now decided to switch sides. But I think if we're looking at this from the perspective of the Libyan people, there's a sense that...
Okay, again, which Libyan people? Why is she speaking about them in a monolith?
Worth it. And that one might take issue with that for many reasons, many grounds. But I think for Libyans, it's important. They see this as their revolution, and many of them are thankful for NATO's role in the air support and the ground support, the special forces that came in from Qatar. I mean, let's not forget Qatar's role in this as well. It's not just NATO, and I think in the...
Okay, and in this discussion she's going to have, again, the who, the what, the where, the when, the why. In the case of Qatar, they're in incredible violation of international law. They're an incredible violation. They weren't supposed to have a single soldier on the ground, according to UN 1973, and they've come out and brazenly stated that they had probably 100 men with each of the brigades in Libya. Now, their precise statement was that they had soldiers from the beginning in every territory, in every theater. So I can't say 100 guys with every brigade, because these militias are basically for each town that was hostile to Gaddafi, which was, let's just say for the moment, somewhere between 1/3 and 2/3 of the towns of Libya. And some of the brigades were very tiny. Okay, let's carry on.
Post-Gaddafi situation, the real power struggle is between NATO and Qatar in some ways, and the different forces that they're backing on the ground in Libya, and how the future of Libya will look like. In that case, if Qatar comes out on top. So a lot of the activists in Libya are sort of trying to, maintain their independence and critique both NATO and Qatar as...
Okay, so who are these activists? Who are these activists? I have been studying Libya since the beginning of the conflict, and I have not been able to get very many names of very many organizations that have quote-unquote activists that are native to Libya.
As well as the new leadership in Libya.
We only have a minute to go, but in this period of this year that you've been away, you also returned home to India because your dad died.
Okay. So I'm really sorry your dad died, but isn't this a pretty serious issue to start creating a human interest story about her personal family? I think some sort of public statement is needed by Amy before I, at any rate, will donate to Democracy Now! Let's see here. I'm going to pull this all the way out. I'm currently doing a monthly support for the Real News. I would do the same for Democracy Now!, assuming I can afford it, if Amy and Juan would make some sort of clear public statement. The damage of how NATO and the Arab League broke every international norm and law imaginable is enormous. how so many countries with much larger militaries took turns testing their weapon systems and readiness on a defenseless defense force in violation of the very resolutions that they themselves drafted. Norway, uh, Holland, the Dutch, the French, the British, the Norwegians, the Americans. I think I mentioned the France, United Kingdom, and other countries all took turns bombing this place. And there were articles in Wall Street Journal about how this was really going to do well for the sales of their weapon systems. Really horrendous in my view. Of course, finally, the justification of all this was a hypothetical. The supposed risk of many people dying from the attack on Benghazi by the loyalist forces. But if you can kill people based on preventing them from doing things in the future you think they're going to do, imagine applying this to your personal life. It means we could all go around killing each other, killing whole families of people, killing whole affiliations of people just because we think they might do something later. So there has to be a real firewall between opinion and fact. So that concludes my report. Thank you, good night, and good luck.